In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to use the Ti-84 graphing calculator to solve a quadratic equation by using the quadratic formula. So you're going to need to turn your Ti-84 calculator on, and let's get started. I'm going to solve 4 problems today. Okay, I'm going to try and show you some that all start in a different setup to make sure, hopefully, that we cover kind of all the possible ways a problem can be presented. So here's the quadratic formula, which you don't need to memorize, but you do need to, from a reference sheet or a formula chart, you do need to know how you use it. So the formula has lots of variables in it, a B, an A, a C, and another A, and all of those variables need to be replaced. So the first thing I want you to get comfortable with is rewriting this entire formula, but removing all of the variables and replacing them with parentheses. Now this is really important because this setup is what you're going to put into that calculator. So let's get started. First of all, you've got a giant fraction bar. In the numerator, you have a negative sign, and then you have the variable b. After that, you have both a plus and a minus sign. You can't type them both at the same time, but you can write them both at the same time on your paper. Next, we have the square root. Again, replace the variable with parentheses. Now my fraction bar wasn't really long enough, so I'm going to extend it a bit further. Alright, hopefully this makes sense to you. So I'm going to group these all together so that I can copy and paste it on my next screen just to save time throughout the video. Now, what I need to do is fill in all of these empty spaces with the correct replacement value. So I need to know what A is, what B is, and what C is. And that is found from the quadratic equation if it's in standard form, which this equation is. It's equal to 0. My x squared is first, my x is second, my constant is third. So if A does not have a coefficient, it's a 1. B is positive 4. C is positive 1. Now I'm going to take these values and insert them into my red equation here, right? So the first spot is the B. The next spot is also B. This one here is A. And the last one is C. And the denominator is A. So that's the only work that you need to do. The rest we'll do on the calculator. So let's get started. If your calculator does not have this fraction menu, which I'm about to show you, then you should update the operating system. You certainly can do a Google search for that, and you can download the new ROM for your calculator. So here we go. You're going to start first with the green alpha button. Press it once. You'll know that it's active if your screen cursor turns into an A. Watch as I click it again. See that? It's not active. Press it once. Now it's active. When the green button is active, it means all of these green items on the calculator are what is going to occur if you hit that key. So I'm interested in entering F1, which is my function 1 menu. So alpha y equals will open my function 1 menu. The first choice is numerator denominator, which is exactly what I need. I need a numerator and a denominator. So I'm going to choose number 1, or I can just press enter because 1 is highlighted. If I wanted to choose others, I would arrow down, or I would press the key for that particular number. So I'm going to choose number 1. And there's the base of my fraction here, right? So I have my numerator, my denominator. Now I'm going to start typing one thing at a time. Now be very careful here. This is a negative sign. This is a subtraction sign. Those are different. If you type a subtraction sign here, and you put in parentheses 4 and a whole bunch of other things, I'm going to leave it off for a second just to show you what happens, right? I'm going to get this error message. And you're like, what? What's wrong? Well, if it says error of syntax, that means you typed something wrong. And most often, it's the minus sign. So I'm going to select number 2. And by selecting number 2, the calculator is going to go to my mistake. So click 2, and look where it's flashing. You see that? It's flashing here and saying to me, hey, that's a typing mistake. Because I put a subtraction sign. I pressed this key. And you can't press a subtraction key unless there's something in front of it. Because what I just typed here is subtract 4. But what are we subtracting 4 from? So that's why it's giving me an error. So that might be one of your problems if you're getting that syntax error. So I'm going to type over it with my negative button. See that? Negative button. Now I'm going to go past this and continue. I have a choice. I have to do both of these operations, but I can only do one at a time. So I'm going to press the plus sign first, and now I'm going to press the square root key. Now the square root key is in blue. It's right over here, diagonal to number 7, right? It is the inverse of x squared, so it's up here in blue. So since it's blue, I have to press my blue second key first, and then I press my x squared key. And there's my square root sign. And my square root sign will keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger as I type. So I'm going to press parentheses 4 parentheses. Now here's another very common mistake. Putting the square sign inside the parentheses. That's not correct. The square sign has to go outside the parentheses. That may not seem like a big deal right now, but if there was a negative number in there and you put the square sign inside, you're going to get a wrong answer. So be aware of that. Now I'm going to press subtract 4 parentheses 1 parentheses, and again parentheses 1 closed parentheses. So pause the video if you need to take a look at this. I know there's a 5 down there. I should have deleted that a long time ago. I did that with my sample thing from the beginning. Here we go. Let's look our numerator over. Negative parentheses 4, check. Plus sign, check. Square root sign, parentheses 4. Square on the outside, check. Minus 4, 1, 1. We're all good. Now I'm going to press the arrow down button. You see that? That gets me to the bottom of the fraction. Gets me to the top of the fraction, right? Bottom. 2 parentheses 1. Okay, that's it. I have entered this entire fraction into my calculator, and when I press enter, I will get my answer. Now we happen to get an irrational number, and that's okay. That's typically what happens. So I'm going to round this to the nearest tenth. Negative 0.3. Now, this looks a little funky, but I want to point out to you, it is not a parentheses. No. It is a listing of possible x values. So we need braces. All right, I'm going to copy this fraction. See this arrow key? I'm going to arrow up once. See what's highlighted? I'm going to arrow up twice. What's highlighted is what I want to copy and paste. So I'm going to press enter, which will copy and paste it, and now I can edit it. So I want to do everything exactly the same, but I want to change this. So in order to do that, I press the back arrow, then to get into the fraction, then I press the up arrow to get into the numerator, and I arrow back, back, back. See what's going on here? I'm getting to each character until I finally get to that plus sign. I'm going to change it to a subtraction sign, and that's all I need to do. Press enter, and round your answer. Negative. I forgot to change my color back, but you get the idea. All right, that's how you do it. So let's try this again. I'm going to clear my screen and start my new problem. Again, you always start identifying A, B, and C. But you can't do that unless it's in standard form, which this is. A, B, C. All right. Now I deliberately picked this question because it's got some minus signs in it, which we're going to call negative signs. So this operation here, it belongs to that coefficient. So when you identify A, B, and C, You got to take its sign with it. All right, I'm going to paste that skeleton formula from before. And now we're ready to fill in our values. Right now, this is called showing your work. Not much to do, but you must show what you are entering into the formula and where. So b is -2, b is -2, a is 1, c is -48, a is 1. All right, let's get started. Remember how to enter the fraction button? Alpha, y equals. Choose number 1, and please be careful here. This is a minus sign. I'm sorry, this is a negative sign. This is also a negative sign. And you have to write both. Negative, parentheses, -2, close parentheses. Now, I can choose either one of these. It doesn't matter which one we start with. Last time I started with the plus, maybe this time I'll start with the minus. It doesn't matter. The square root sign is, you can get that by pressing blue, second, x squared. Remember, the square sign here has to go outside the parentheses. Parentheses, -2, parentheses, then the square. That's very important. All right, hopefully you understand what I just did there. I typed in all of these keys, right, to represent these values. Arrow down. Now I'm going to be a little lazy here, and I'm just going to type a 2. I can type the parentheses times 1, but we all know that it's not going to change. 2 times 1 is 2, so I'm just going to kind of be smart about this and efficient. Press enter. Copy down your answer. Oh, these braces are hard. That's a little better. Meh. I gotta work on this. That wasn't bad. Okay, remember, you do the whole thing exactly the same, but this time with the other operation. You do that by copying and pasting. Arrow up twice till it's highlighted. Press enter. Press the back arrow to get into the fraction. Press the up arrow to get to the numerator. Then press down on that sideways key there, right, that left key, and change this to a plus. There you have it. Okay, let's take a look at one more here. Now this one is not in standard form. So I want to talk to you about making sure that you're not just quick copying down wrong numbers. This has to move to the other side. You see what sign that 20 has now? So that's why you got to pay careful attention. If you had put a 20 here, you would have got the problem wrong. Okay, let's copy down our values. A is 1, B is -8, C is -20. Do a little cheat feature here. I know you wish you had one of these features on your paper. All right, B again, A, C, A. Pause the video and see if you can beat me to the answer here. All right, here I go. Fraction, alpha y equals, negative, parentheses, -8, parentheses. I'm going to do a plus sign this time. Blue x squared, that's the square root button, parentheses, -8, close parentheses. Remember, the squared sign goes on the outside. Oh no, look at my screen. One of my parentheses didn't click. I want to show you something. If I press the back arrow and I press the parentheses, do you see how it typed over my negative sign? That's annoying. So what I want to do, since I want to squeeze in a negative sign, is I don't want to type it, I want to insert it. So I'm going to press this blue button and then the delete key. You see what's written up there in blue? INS. That stands for insert. Now look up at my cursor blinking. You see it? It has an arrow. Now watch what happens. You see how it changed there? Now I know that it's going to push that 8 over. Bloop. Done. All right, fix my mistake. Okay, now look at this. See? Up in the exponent position, down in the regular position. Up in the exponent, down in the regular. So be careful. Subtraction, 4, parentheses, 1, parentheses. You know what? I probably don't even need to type that 1 either, right? We're smart enough to know that times by 1 does nothing. But I'll type it just because you're learning. And then 2, parentheses, 1. Okay. Now, if it was a negative 1, I could definitely not leave that off, because timesing by a negative 1 does do something. All right, let's press enter. Copy down our answer. Copy and paste our fraction here. Go back, whoops. Go back and over, and let's see. First time I had a plus, now I need a minus. Done. That's it. Now, typically when we write our answers, we do put them in order from least to greatest. But if you wrote this, you'd get full credit. But if it was a multiple choice test, that would be what the choice looks like. All right, last one for this tutorial. This one is in standard form, but there's negative signs all over the place. So I want to make sure that you can really do this. If you think you're getting the hang of it, you should pause the video now. Otherwise, please get used to writing this work on your paper. It's important. I know you want to skip it because you're like, oh, I have my calculator. But you're not going to get any work and any credit for your work unless you write this down on your paper. So B is negative 10. Different colors. So here we go. Woo! Everything is a negative this time. All right, fraction button. Getting good at this now, I bet. Negative. Negative 10. Now, typically, if you want to have your answers in order from least to greatest, you start with the minus sign. Square root, parentheses, negative 10, parentheses on the the square on the outside of the parentheses. Now, no solution, like getting an error message on your calculator, is possible, but highly unlikely at this level. And if you want to know if the answer really is no solution, you can just check the discriminant to figure that out. But I had a couple students saying that there was no solution when there really was, and they thought there was no solution because that's what their calculator said. Problem was they typed it wrong in their calculator. So if you get the answer of no solution, you should check your discriminant just to make sure. So here we go. There's my first answer. Copy, paste, arrow over, arrow up, left arrow, hold it down, plus sign. This time it was reversed. So anyways, okay. Hopefully you're getting the hang of it and you're feeling a little more comfortable with using your graphing calculator to enter the quadratic equation. All right, good luck with your own problems.